Hello everyone, welcome back to Wisconsin Greg. It's another beautiful day here in Wisconsin. I'm standing out here by one of my favorite trees, a catalpa tree in my yard. But that's not what we're going to talk about today. I want to take you in my kitchen and I want to show you how I make soap. It's nothing hard to make. Some people think it's complicated or it's hard or it's dangerous because it's made with lye. It's not dangerous if you just use the precautions that they tell you to do and take your time and do it as you're supposed to. So let's go in the kitchen and we'll get started. Okay, I'm in the kitchen now. First thing I'm going to do is I'm going to tell you, don't just automatically go and do everything the way I do it. I may not be 100% doing everything right. I've made soap for about 2 or 3 years and I've never had a problem, but I don't want to judge somebody wrong. So my first advice to you is go out and buy yourself a book or do some studying on the internet about soap making. This is one book that I would recommend. It's called Smart Soap Making. This is the one that really got me going. It's made by Annie L. Watson. It's a very good book. It's gives you all the details for safety and how to do it and how to clean up and how to do everything. It's a very good book, so I'd highly recommend it. It has, I don't remember how many, it's got probably 4, 5, 6 recipes in there. I've made about 2 of them, 2 maybe 3 different recipes out of this book, and they've all turned out excellent. Today the one I'm making is going to be it's a real easy, it's called All Vegetable Grocery Store Soap No. 1. Everything in here can be bought at your grocery store, so it's nothing fancy and it's a very good soap. It can be used for all around soap. I use it for bath soap, hand soap. It works good for everything. So that's my first recommendation, is go out and get a good book that teaches you how to make soap, and don't rush. Take your time. Always when you're making soap, give yourself a lot of time, because you don't want to be rushed. That's the last thing you want to do when you're making soap. So that's my first piece of advice, and then I'll go over what you're going to need here to make this soap. I know it looks like a lot here, but it's really not. And then once you get your stuff, I also recommend your containers and stuff that you're going to be using for making soap. Keep them in a box and mark it for soap only. You don't want to be getting stuff that's been used with lye mixed in with your food stuff. That could be very, very dangerous. So just use all these containers for soap making only, and make sure that they are marked well so that nobody else uses them for anything else but soap. So I'll go through here and tell you what you need, or what I use. This is what I use. You're going to need about a few plastic cups to measure your items out. That's what I do. It just makes it easier. Distilled water, or vinegar, excuse me, for wiping down your surface after you're done for cleanup. I use a container like this made out of glass for warming up my solid fats. That would be like the coconut oil or palm oil, if you use that. Any kind of fat that needs to be melted and softened up before you use it. I use a Sharpie for marking on my cups what my ingredients are, so I know what they are after I measure them out. A pair of safety goggles, or these are kind of more like glasses, but goggles would be better. That's what they recommend. Some plastic or like latex gloves. A stainless steel container. This is for mixing the lye. It gets very, very hot, and this is what the first time I tried making it, I used a container that was kind of like this, but it was made out of hard plastic. It looked like glass, and the lye gets so hot it just puts cracks all over it. So you'll want a good solid container, and made out of stainless steel is my recommendation for mixing the lye. And then of course you need lye, 100% lye, which is nothing but drain opener. Make sure it's 100% lye. You'll need some pH strips, which you can find on Amazon, that go from 1 to 14. That's the ones I found. So that's within the ranges that you're going to need to be measuring. So these are little strips of paper. You tear off, you get the soap a little wet and rub it in the soap, and then hold it up here and measure what your pH is, whichever one it matches up to. We'll go into that later. You'll need something to stir with. A slotted one would probably be a little better. That's what they recommend in the book, but I didn't have a slotted one. I just use this and it works fine. I've had no problems. Electronic temperature gauge, or thermometer I guess you call it, that measures in Fahrenheit. I guess it doesn't matter if it measures in Fahrenheit or Celsius, but I go by Fahrenheit. That's what I go by. If you want to put a scent in your soap, you need a essential oil that's 100% natural and pure. That you can pick whatever smell that you want. The last one I made was spearmint, and it was wonderful. This one I'm going to use lavender. Then a spoon to scoop out like the coconut oil into this later, and so we can melt it. So you'll need a spoon and your coconut oil. You need a bottle of water, or distilled water, and then olive oil. These are some extra partial bottles I had left over. I want to get used up before they go bad. So that's why I got 3 bottles. You don't need like all that, but that's just what I happen to have laying around. You need a digital scale, because to me that's one of the biggest important things, is to get your measurements very precise. I use this big stainless steel pot here. I'm not sure what you exactly call it. This is a 4-quart. It does great. It's done good for me. It's a good, perfect size for me. If you're doing bigger batches of soap, you of course will need bigger. This is stainless steel also, and it's easy to clean because of its stainless steel. Also I use a cookie sheet here. Underneath I line it with aluminum foil, and then I use silicone molds here, which I have bought from Amazon. You can get any shape you want. I like to have them fairly big so the soaps last pretty long. Don't have to keep changing your soap all the time. And I think that's about it. So we'll go on from here and we'll start measuring out our products that we're going to be using and how much, and I'll get some of this out of the way here so we got some room to work, and then I'll show you measuring the items out, and we'll go from there. Okay, there's a couple more things I wanted to mention that I almost forgot about. You want some ice. You don't need a whole lot, but some ice. And you also, I would recommend having paper towels or some kind of towels around to wipe things up and to be able to clean up any little spills. Another thing you'll want to be doing is either do this outside or make sure you have like a fan on. I have a fan on over here, and I have a window on over here, so it's blowing everything right out of here. All the fumes, any little fumes that come off from when the lye is being mixed, will be blown right outside the window. So just make sure you're in a well ventilated area. So okay, I'll get some of this cleaned up now, and then we'll go to get on measuring stuff. Okay, the first thing I'll do is I'll read off the ingredients what I'm going to be for the recipe that I'm going to be making. The recipe in the book is called an all veggie grocery store soap number 1. It says this is an excellent basic soap with easily available ingredients. So the first ingredient is 9 ounces of coconut oil. Second ingredient is 21 ounces of olive oil. The third ingredient is 9 ounces of distilled water. And the last ingredient is 4.1 ounces of lye. Now I'll go over that again one more time. 9 ounces of coconut oil, 21 ounces of olive oil, 9 ounces of distilled water, and 4.1 ounces of lye. So we'll go on now and we'll get started doing that, and we'll start with the coconut oil. Now the coconut oil is a little bit solid and it's going to have to be warmed up in the microwave. So the coconut oil we're going to put into this glass jar. The first thing you want to do is turn your scale on and make sure that it's set to ounces. Okay, now set your glass jar measuring cup on here, and that's what the jar or measuring cup weighs. So we're gonna go and take that weight and hit tare, because we don't want that to be part of our measurement of the coconut oil. So that erases the weight of that. It's just like we're starting from 0. So we want, let me go back to the page here. 9 ounces of coconut oil. I'll just leave this right here so I can see it. 9 ounces of coconut oil. So I'll scoop this into there till we get right at 9 ounces. Now, coconut oil is not going to take a whole lot to get it thinned out. It's pretty thin. Almost the temperature here today has almost got it thinned out. It will need a little bit of microwaving. Well, now we're at 4.7 ounces. This is 5.9. 7. 7.7. 8.1. I might have to open up the other jar because this was a partial jar. Might be able to squeeze enough out of here to get it, I'm not sure, we'll see. Okay, it just did it. Scraping bottom, but we got it. 9.0 ounces. So, rinse this off a little bit. This is coconut oil, will come off really easy. Okay. So we got exactly 9.0 ounces, and I'm going to set this in the microwave and turn it on for like a minute. I'll put a little paper plate over the top for a cover so it don't splatter. So I'll be right back. Okay, so I got that in the microwave for 1 minute, and then we'll go check on that after I'm done with this here. So we want to measure out of our olive oil. We need 21 ounces. So take your marker and mark on the cup that it's olive oil. Okay. Okay, now we start over again with our cup on there, and we want to get rid of the weight of the cup, so we hit tare. That brings us down to 0, so the only thing we'll be weighing is what we're putting in the cup, not the cup plus what's in there, just what's in the cup. So now we want to measure our olive oil in there so we get 21 ounces. This might take 2 cups here. I don't want to put where it's spilling over the edge, so let's see here how it goes here. So we're going to, we want 21 ounces of olive oil. That's what we're shooting for. Okay, there's 11 ounces in there, so we'll put the other 10 ounces in another cup so we get the 21 ounces. So there's 11 ounces. Now we'll zero this out again because not every cup might not weigh the same, so we want to make sure we got exact measurements here. In this case it did, but so we want to tear it out to 0 again like we did before. And now this one we need 10 more ounces so we get a total of 21 ounces. Okay. Get rid of all these partial bottles of olive oil here. So we need 10 more ounces here to equal 21 here. So there we go, 10 ounces. So there's, between the 2 cups there, we got 21 ounces of olive oil. And I forgot to mark this one, but I can still do it, that's okay. It's a little easier to do when they're not full. So there we got the olive oil. And the next thing is distilled water. We want 9 ounces of distilled water. I just used it out of a plastic water bottle. That's what I've used in the past and I've always had good luck, so that's what I'm going to continue to do. So do this the same way, put your cup on there. Now see, this one's 0.5 ounces, the other ones were 0.4. We want to tear this out to 0. So we're just weighing the ingredients in there. So this one is 9 ounces of distilled water. So here we go. Okay. Went just a little bit over. So it's just water, it's no big deal. I can just pour a little bit down the drain. There we go, 9 ounces of distilled water. And I did the same thing again. I forgot to mark it, but that's fine, I can still do it. No big deal. Okay, now the last thing we want to measure out is the lye. So once we start monkeying around with the lye, that's when we want to get our PPE on, our personal protective equipment. One other thing I did not mention is they recommend you wear long sleeves with this. So I'm going to put on a long sleeve shirt, an old shirt, and then I'll get my gloves on and my safety glasses or goggles on. And then I'll be right back. Okay, I got my personal protective equipment on. I got my gloves, my long sleeve shirts, and my safety glasses or goggles. So now we're going to measure out the lye. So I'll mark this one lye. And for the lye, we want 4.1 ounces of lye. So do this the same way. Put your cup on there. Zero it out, the tare weight of the cup. So there we go. Now we want to put 4.1 ounces of lye. Okay, there we got it, 4.1 ounces of lye. Okay, I'm not sure if you could hear me. It was 4.1 ounces of lye that we had in there. I forgot that I had my microphone sitting off to the side there for a minute. So we got 4.1 ounces of lye in the cup. It's all marked with saying lye on it. So now, let's see. Remember here. We're going to go back to the microwave and make sure that it's all liquefied. So I'll bring you over to the microwave here. And I'll show you what we're doing there. Okay, now you want to add your oils into the big pan. I already dumped the olive oil into the big pan here. And now I'll go get the coconut oil and dump that in there. Alright, get that out of the way. Okay, so we'll just leave this off to the side here. I'm going to run my cold water here a little bit because I want to get it nice and cold. Move the camera here a little bit for you. Okay, and I'm going to put this pan in here, and this is where I'm going to be mixing the lye. And you always want to add the lye to the water slowly. You never ever want to add water to lye. It's always lye to water. I always remember that because I go alphabetical order of the first letter in the words. L is always before W, so lie to water. That's how I remember it. That's just one of the major things for safety when you're making soap. So never add water to lye, always lie to water. So put the water in here. This is the measured out water we have. Put that in this little stainless steel cup. Not sure the correct word for it. Okay. Now we're going to start pouring the lye in there. I'm going to put my drain in the sink here to hold the water. And then I'm going to stir it up while I'm pouring it. I'm going to pour it real slow. You don't want to pour it too fast or it could get like in clumps or stick to the bottom and stuff. You want to pour it real slow. Now, I have a cast iron sink, so I'm doing it right in my sink. If you don't have a cast iron sink, you're going to want to do it in like a cake pan, because this will get very hot, and I don't want you to be melting your sink. If you have a plastic sink or something, it could possibly melt it. So use a cake pan if you got like a plastic sink, but I got a cast iron sink, so I don't have to worry about that. Keep stirring it real. Pour slow and keep stirring it. Okay. Make sure you got your ventilation going when you're doing this. Fan on, windows open. And don't put your head down close to it. I can actually see some fumes coming out of it a little bit. I don't know if it's fumes or just heat. So I'm going to keep that stirred up. I always keep forgetting to put my microphone on here. I hope you could hear everything I was saying. Pour it in really slow into the water. Keep stirring. Okay. Now you're going to put your thermostat in there and check it. Make sure it's set to Fahrenheit. And you want to check it without it'd be good if it had a clip on it. Mine don't. If it you don't want it touching the bottom, and you want it to be between 90 degrees and 110 when you use it. And right now it is at 193 degrees. So it is hot. Now this is why it's in a cast iron sink. This is why you get the water cold. You run this water. This will cool this down. You don't want to fill it high enough where it's going to tip over, but high enough so it cools it down and gets around the edges of it. And you can also lift it up so the water can get underneath it and cool it down. We're already down to like 180. You want to get her down to 90 to 110. Now I'm going to rinse this off here, and I'm going to come over and see what this oil is measuring over here. Okay. This is where you want your ice cubes. So I'll go get them right now and I'll be right back. Dump your ice cubes in here. If you don't have a cast iron sink, dump them into the cake pan that you have the stainless steel cup sitting in. Now, you want to keep stirring this, and that'll make it cool down faster too. You can lift it up a little bit. Get water under the cup, that'll cool it down. Okay. Getting down there, I think it was like 136. One thing I did here is I took my oil out just a little bit too quick. So it's cooled down. You want your oil between 90 and 110, and you want your lye between 90 and 110. They don't have to be exactly the same temperature when you mix them together, but you want them within that range. So what I'm going to have to do is pour some of this out, and I'm going to warm it up just a little bit in the microwave, so we can get them close to the same temperature. Okay, I'll be right back after I warm this up. Okay. Got that back up there, and now we gotta, that's about 98 degrees right now. Let's see how much our lye is here. Okay, our lye is 100 degrees right now. So they're both within the range right now. This is when we want to pour this into our oils, the lye mixture. And then we're going to want to mix it. So I'm going to have to move this over here a little bit. Okay. 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 We got the lye in oils within the 90 and 110 degree range. So now is the time we want to pour our lye mixture into our oils. So pour it very slow and stir it slow. Okay, now I want to get my molds ready. Put them back on the counter here, so I can just come over here quick and pour them because you don't have a lot of time. And take your mixer on low and mix it up a little bit. Now, like I said, with all this stuff, I use this only for soap making. None of this is used for food. None of the molds or the pots and pans or cups or anything it's all strictly for soap. So I'm going to keep this going until you get a little bit thicker than this. Okay, I'm not sure if you can see on the camera, but I got what they call like a slight trace here. You can see a little bit of it on your mixture here when you pull it out. And that's kind of where you want to be right now. Now if you're going to add your scent, now's the time to add it. Okay, I'll pull the drain out here. I'm going to rinse this spoon out and get it out of my way. I don't need that no more. And just leave that in the sink. I want to get this a little bit thicker before I pour it, not much. Okay, that's pretty good right there. I'm gonna rinse this off quick while it's still liquidy. Now we're gonna pour it in our molds. So I'll take you over here to the molds and you can watch that. Hopefully I don't make a mess. Take your time, try not to make too much of a mess. I'm kind of rushing here. I should be going a little bit slower, but I don't want to make you guys use up too much of your data time if you're paying you're paying for your data and don't have unlimited. So I'm going as fast as I can here. Okay, I got a little bit extra. I always have this little bit extra, more than my molds will hold. So what I do is I just take these little cups and I'll fill them up and I'll cut them off later. And I don't care what shape my bars of soaps are in, they work. Okay, so we got about 16 pretty good sized bars out of this batch. Now you just take everything, like your pots and your pans and your stir sticks and spoons and everything, rinse them off under the water, then take your surface area and wipe it all down with the vinegar and a damp cloth. And then wash your utensils all up in your bowls and cups and everything with soap and water and put them in a box marked for soap only, so none of this stuff gets used for any food items. Then what you want to do is leave these molds for 24 hours, and then they should be real hard by then, pretty hard, and it'll be hard in about 12 hours, but in 24 hours you can pop them out of the molds. And it's best to put them on a rack, but if you don't have them, like I don't really have a rack that I want to use for that. I just turn them every once in a while so they dry evenly. When you pop them out of the molds, recommend wearing your gloves until you test it with the pH test strips. Because if it's not totally done yet, it could burn your hands. So use your gloves when you're popping them out of the molds, and then test it with a pH test strip. And when you pop them out of your molds, you should end up with something like this. This is from my last batch of soap. And then to do a pH test strip on them, you still have your gloves on yet while you pop them out. Do a pH test strip on them. All you got to do is take a little water on your finger. Take a few drops of water on the back side of a bar. Squish it around a little bit like this. Take one of your test strips. Just swish it around like this, some water on the back of the bar. Take one of your test strips, tear it off. If I can get one here. Okay. Now soak that into the wet spot you just made on the back of the bar here. Let that soak up. Okay, that's good. What you want to do is take this here and you open up your test strips and you match it up with what color it is. So this is between an 8 and a 10. Now, let me see what, I can't remember exactly what the is good here. My notes here. So the pH test, if it's between 7 and 10, it's okay to use. If it's from 11 to 12, you don't want to use it. You'll want to let it sit longer before you use it. Now, I don't recommend using them anyways. If it still is testing high, let them sit. I always let my bars sit for anywhere from 2 to 4 weeks before I use them, because that'll get the bar much harder and they'll last longer. If you use them too soon, they'll feel kind of gooey and oily. Then they're not quite ready yet. So in about 2 weeks you can use them, more than likely. That's when I start using mine, and then by the time I get to the rest are hardened up really good. So I'll repeat that again. You want to make sure your test strips read between 7 and 10 according to the book that I showed you earlier, and when I first started, that's what they recommend. If it's 11 to 12, don't use it. Let it sit for some more days before, and then retest it. Cure for 2 to 4 weeks to make it harder, so they last longer. And that's about it. I just put my box, after I got it all done and cured, I'll keep it in a box. Mark what scent it is and when I made it, and I'll put like layers of wax paper between them, and then I'll just store it upstairs, and I'll just go get some soap whenever I need it. Now, I forgot to mention, I'm going to put this in a area that's not going to be disturbed, and I'm going to cover these with wax paper that keeps them clean, keeps any dirt off of them. So make sure you cover them until they get hardened up, and then even after they're hardened, when you're turning them, I still kind of keep some loose wax paper over them to keep dust and dirt off of them until I get them put away. So that's pretty much it. Get out there and get your supplies, and don't rush. Make correct measurements, and get the book and read the book through thoroughly. Not necessarily that book, but any soap making book, or do your studying before online, wherever you're going to study, but make sure you know what you're doing before you get started. And as like I said, this is how I do it. I may not be doing everything 100% true. Not an expert on this. I've only been making soap for a couple years, 2 or 3 years now, but I've never had a problem, no issues, and it's always turned out excellent. If you don't want no scent in your soap, you can leave the scent out. Some people are allergic to that. You can try all different kinds of scent. There's all different kinds of recipes. I've made goat milk soap. I've made some with, I can't remember the names of it. It had palm oil and stuff. It's a harder soap. Every soap I've made has all turned out excellent. But I made this one here today for you guys because it's the ingredients are readily available at a grocery store. So I'll let you go now. And thanks for watching. If you like my channel, I'd appreciate you to subscribe. I'm sure you'll like some other adventures I get into. I do a lot of different things. So thanks for watching. Give me a thumbs up if you'd like. And it was great seeing you. Have a beautiful and wonderful day.